Attention on deck. You're about to take command. Welcome to the bunker.
Welcome, everybody, back to the bunker. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, or if you're watching on YouTube and you see at the bottom left another guy that stole my Zoom called Andy Burrows is really Jesse Martin. We're back to talk more Washington Commanders football, and what a time to be a Commanders fan. As you can see, I am joined by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Jesse Martin. Jesse, Happy New Year, brother. How's the hangover?
A little rough, but happy new year to you guys. And yeah, I'm gonna try to muscle through this as best as I possibly can.
Who would have thought the two English guys are the sober ones in this podcast? Unbelievable. I'm joined by my good friend from up north, Mr. Scouse. Mr. Lockhart, how are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, I had a quiet one, so I'm not hungover like Martin over there. But yeah, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm very good. Yeah, I'm like you, bro. I was in bed 10:30. I logged on to Twitter. I was up really early. I logged on to Twitter at like 5:15 this morning, 5:15 a.m. And Jesse Martin was the first tweet I see. He was still going strong. So we have really, truly converted him to being English now. He's truly one of us. Our
Yeah,
very
but that's
special
quarter past
guest.
12, man. That's quarter past 12 for
I know,
him.
but he's
Half a
American.
man.
You know these guys can't drink. Oh, he stayed up later than you one, Burrow.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, by a minute. Let's start off the new year with one of our great friends, one of our best friends across the pond, and the host of the Burgundy Zone, Mr. Carl Ronick. Carl, Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year, boys. Hopefully I sound better than Jesse right now. He was hurting, it sounded like a little bit, but new year, new great things. Who would have known that 24 was the year that we really got back to get going with Washington?
Yeah, unbelievable. For those watching on YouTube, Jesse hasn't gone to hell, I'm hoping. Boys, let's start with you, Carl. If I had said to you this time last year, the 1st of January 2024, that you and I and the boys would be sitting here talking about the Washington Commanders winning 11 games of football, rolling into the playoffs, being 7-2 at home, having a rookie QB that looks like he has been in the league for years, you would have said, Andy, put the Jägermeister down. You're still drunk from New Year's Eve. What a season it's been for the Washington Commanders. We've still one game to go.
Yeah, if you would have told me that this time last year, I probably would have thought that like the NFC and the schedule, like the NFC East was really bad. I would have thought that there would have been like us just kind of being inflated a little bit, just given that we're walking away from Rivera at that point. We don't know who the coach is. The GM hasn't been brought in. But I will say, like, as much as that is the thought process, that hasn't been the case. The NFC is very strong. You could say overwhelmingly it's better as a conference than the AFC is at this point. They have the better quarterbacks, but the NFC is the better team. And right now, Washington, they've caught fire, man. And it's beautiful to see because in 2012, a lot of it was based on RG's legs, where this year it's much more so of you see the passer of Jaden Daniels and the leader that he is in crucial situations, being able to overcome some crazy scoring deficiencies and still be able to pull out wins. I think it speaks a lot to just everybody in the organization from the owner down in such a short amount of time being able to create a winner here. And obviously, they make it seem easy, but it's not.
Jesse, same question to you. I mean, we sit here on the 1st of January, one game to go against the Cowboys. We're going to hopefully be the sixth seed as we go into the playoffs, depending on what happens next Sunday, which we're going to get into. Jesse, what do you put it down to? Do you put it down to the fact that we now have our QB of after all these years? I've lost count how many podcasts we've all done, and it's revolved around poor QB play, or someone's got injured, or we were on our fourth QB of the season, or et cetera, et cetera. We've said this for years and years since we've known each other, probably since like 2020 when we all first met. Get a winning team, get a guy under center that knows what he's doing, and winning football will solve everything. Jesse, is this season even shocked you to where the Washington Commanders are now?
If you would have told me that we had the opportunity to win 12 games this year, I would have tried to sell you some swampland in North Carolina, to be honest with you. I mean, we figured that this team would be better, but the turnaround all on the back of Jaden Daniels and the quarterback. And it really starts up top at Josh Harris, and he's brought a winning mindset to this organization that we have not seen in 30 plus years. So the credit really goes to him, and then kind of sprinkles down throughout the organization and lands squarely on Jaden's shoulders to really pull the trigger and to make a season. And we got to be honest with ourselves. The talent around him is not very great. It's not like we have a bunch of blue chip players on this team. We have the quarterback that's out there making the plays.
Mm. Scouse, is it the same thing for you? I mean, what do you think's been outside of we're gonna talk a lot about Jaden, of course, but outside of Jaden, what surprised you the most about this season within the organization? Because like Jesse just made a good point there. Every season after season, we've been Terry this, Terry that. One player has had to kind of drag this team over the line. Or you look at 2020 when we got to we won the division with 9 wins. If you look back to 2020, 9 wins. That's not getting you anywhere near anything in the NFC East now. I mean, this record, what we've got now, would have won you the NFC East in the last 2 to 3, 4 years easily. It's just the fact that the Eagles have been so good until we whooped that ass. What surprised you the most about this season, Scouse? Is it the fact that we've risen so quick? We're meant to be rebuilding. Well, this is the rebuild. I can't wait till it's done because we're going to go win the Super Bowl.
Listen, I like that idea. I like that. I mean, what I'm more impressed with is the I think you kind of mentioned it a little bit about Josh Harris and but hiring the right people. And I'm talking about kind of going not just Peters, but everybody else, because we hired like the dream team of coaches, but you think, can these guys all mesh together and be actually together rather than being all individuals? Okay. And I think these guys have told the party line and the culture thought the whole team. You can see it, and you see most of the time that we're getting better at not every single thing, but compared to first week to now, we're a much better team than we were. And I was skeptical because I was thinking these guys are all big names in their own right, all the coaches, previous head coaches before, and would they be able to kind of all mesh together and make it work well? And they've been superb, to be fair.
Yeah, I think a key word as well is consistency. If you consistently have your best players on the field, touch wood, don't want to mock anything. We haven't really sat here and gone, oh my God, he's out for 6. We've had injuries, don't get me wrong, but we haven't had the grand scale of injuries where us guys have all sat here and gone, well, our QB's out for the rest of the season, or our star wide receiver, or our running back's injured, or etc. Or someone from centers, knock on wood, exactly, Carl. It hasn't happened yet. I don't want to jinx anything, but when you consistently can put your best players on the field, you're going to have a chance of winning football games, and that's something Washington, I can't, well, in years and years, we haven't been able to do. I just mentioned at the start of the show, we've been sitting here talking about this player and that player, and this QB come in. Alex Smith gets injured. We've got to bring in Heineke. All kinds of things. The Dwayne Haskins situation, everything like that's gone in Washington. This is the first season where week after week we've consistently put players on the field, and we're talking about purely football now. That's all we talked about since the draft, since training camp, since the draft, since preseason, since the season. That's what we have done. Carl, how were you? How was the heart rate watching the Falcons game, bro? Knowing what was on the line, knowing that we needed to win to get in. It was heart stopping. It went to overtime. Is that a game as well that also proves how far this franchise has come? Because if you put us in that situation a season ago, a couple of seasons back, in that kind of game situation where we maybe had to win to something to happen, this team would have shit the bed and it wouldn't have happened. Like Scouse just said, we've got the right people in the right places, and that goes from off the field all the way down to on it, to everything that's going on in this organization. How was your heart rate against the Falcons, bro?
It was high throughout that game, but to Andy and Jesse's point about the overall structure of the team where we've come, I think it would need to be highlighted of Dante Fowler having 10.5 sacks, having Frankie Louvu brought in, who has 8 sacks on the year, drafting Mikey Sarenstill, who originally was inside, they moved to outside. So it's like all of these different moving parts that they've brought in have really come in here and been productive and that whole unit of a team. And so you guys are absolutely right about that. But my heart rate during the game was insane. I probably prayed like 5 or 6 times during that game just because it's like I even put it on Twitter. I was like, "Do you believe?" And I as soon as I tweeted, I was like, "Am I talking to myself right now?" Because at that point, it seemed like we were losing the control over the game, but as long as you have five back there, you always have a chance. And when we went into that overtime, I said out loud, I said, let's go win this football game. Like this is the time to do it. And if I tried to explain this to my wife because she doesn't watch every game, but like this is what they've done all season, where they really do make it a roller coaster. But when the clock hits zero, when it's the end of the game, they somehow find a way to be on top. And a lot of credit to this football team because Dan Quinn has highlighted this many times when talking about like that battle hardened. You have to go through these tough matchups, these tough situations in order to the next time it comes up, you're not wide eyed. And that obviously is coming to fruition. Like they are not concerned about in those kind of crunch times. And that's honestly on the shoulders of Jaden, who is always calm, cool, and collected. And it really rubs off on the rest of the team. But for me, yeah, I was nervous. My heart rate was high. But man, when that touchdown came down with Zach Ertz, I didn't even see him hit the ground. I was already screaming and jumping.
Oh
But
yeah,
that's just the excitement of Washington for you, man.
Jesse, we talk. How important is it that this season you get the likes of a Zach Ertz, a Bobby Wagner in the building, having that experience, having played because we haven't had that in the past. These players can turn around and go, "Been there, done that. I know how to do this, guys." This is why these guys were brought in the building, right, Jesse? You've got Bobby Wagner, you've got that, Carl just mentioned, you've got to be in these moments like we had on Sunday night, Monday morning here in the UK for them moments. That's why they're brought into the organization. And you put five back there as well, and you put Jaden and how far he's advanced. Just them three players alone, I think, have benefited the team way more than like we talk about Chase Young and we talk about everything that's gone on in the past drafts. I think them three players alone, you put the experience with with the sprinkling of what we've got coming up and the development of these young players. I think that was the markings of a good football team.
Like the likes of Ertz and Bobby Wagner and even Austin Eckler, it's the experience of leadership as well that they've brought to the team. And yeah, they're good players. They've been around, they've seen every single thing. But the leadership that they brings, I think, helps galvanize everybody else together and to kind of feed off each other and make it that brotherhood that you hear Quinn talk about all the time.
Scouse, same for you. I mean, you look at Jaden. He's rushing for 127 yards on Sunday. I heard, I can't remember who I was listening to. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Might have been Goldie's, and he was saying when you can get your QB running for 127 yards, and he said he probably left some out there. There's probably more that he can do in a game. That puts you in a great chance of winning games of football alone. And again, I go back to you're not getting that with Heineke, you're not getting that with Alex Smith, you're not getting that with these other donkeys that we've had back there. And I don't mean that horribly, but they're never gonna win you. They're never gonna put us in the situation we're in now. We've said it for time and time again. Get someone that can put you in these winning situations. Let's talk about JD for a little bit now because come in as a rookie. No one expected him to do what he's done. Like Carl said, that every clutch situation that we've been in, every time we've been down in the third or going into the fourth quarter, and years gone by, we would have all zoned out. Jesse would have chucked his phone across the room. I would have stormed off. We'd have all been angry. Now we stand. I don't care. Whatever the score is now, we're going into the fourth quarter. We've got a chance. This is a completely different Washington Commanders, Mr. Scouse.
Totally agree. And I think, Jaden is just that good. It's as simple as that. He's just that good. Yeah, Mariota's helping him out and, the coaching staff and all the rest of it. And they no need their props as well. However, just skill-wise and talent-wise, there's no other quarterback out there, really, who's like him. Lamar, maybe Allen, he's just a lot bigger, but is his frame looking at Lamar really? I still think he's a better passer than Lamar, even as a rookie. The way he dices teams up is unreal. He's the best quarterback we've had in forever, 20 years, easily.
In my fandom, easy.
Yeah, and say it's his first year. He's only just turned 24, I think. He's got another 10 years at the top minimum, and I can't wait to see it because this is going to be what we're seeing now is the worst Jaden Daniels you're going to see, and that's scary. Do you know what I mean? Because he's going to keep getting better every year, every game in, game out. So in a couple of years, he's going to be like a vet then, and you're going to see even better performances.
Yeah, and you're going to
And
want to build
that's
around
what's
him.
scaring teams, man.
Yeah.
That scares me because how good he's going to be. It's
Players are going to want to come here and play literally because of him. You see it throughout the league. If you've got a decent QB, players will be like, I want to. In the past, I'm not going to Washington for non-football reasons. Now, they're solely going to want to come to this team purely because of Jaden, purely because of the coaching as well, which I think goes under the radar. What Dan Quinn has come in and done in one season. And Josh Harris, what he's done in one season with, and they haven't changed things drastically off the field. There's been they've made good hires, but they've just put structure in place, which clearly this team hasn't had since since that bozo gone off on his yacht and left us. But I mean, Carl, let's just flip it a little bit to talk about the defense. Go on, brother. You want to make a point?
Yeah, I want to make a point about the lead. I think the question about the leadership, especially with the older players, is probably one of the best questions you could ask right now because Andy brought it up about the Mariota thing. Remember, it wasn't too long ago that Mariota left the Falcons because they benched him. And now he's the backup quarterback, and he has taken that role of because he was there as a top 5 pick, a second overall pick as a quarterback. He's been there. He kind of knows what it's like for Jaden, for him having like taken under his wing, so to speak, and just helping him in that regard. And then with Zach Ertz, just knowing where to be, when to be, and to be that hands of steel, it really goes into the leadership of why they brought these guys in here. Like I equate it to my work at construction. If I'm on a job site and things are very chaotic, the GC is yelling at you to get things done, you're behind. If you have a bunch of young guys just got graduated from apprentices, things are going to be chaotic. But if you can add in some vets in there who've done the job for many, many years, they could keep it calm, say, hey, don't worry, we can go do this, we can go do that, and get things more smooth, right? And that comes down to these late in the games and things like that, where this team, you're kind of seeing the gelling of the old with the young and how well they're working together. And so I think the leadership question is a fantastic one, Andy.
Jesse, the defense has taken a lot of criticism over the years in this team. For whatever reason, we've had injuries and stuff. You look at people like Quan Martin, Bobby Wagner, Michael Davis. How impressed have you been with this defense and the way they've stepped up? The offense gets all the praise, and Jaden's going to get all the praise. I really think in these moments when you have, and we made some stops on Sunday. We had to, as we were going into overtime. I know we restricted the Falcons to, what was it, a 53-yard field goal. If they had moved the ball another 10 yards, that's a chip field goal, and we've lost the game. I think the defense is going under the radar, and I think they deserve a hell of a lot of credit for where they've put us this season.
For the most part, yeah, but I mean, Michael Davis, that was a little bit of a rough game.
I thought I'd throw him. I thought I'd throw him in there. We got to get
But
him some
I see you're trying to throw him a bone. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're not a perfect defense by any means, but we're a lot better than we were last year. I mean, we were 32nd ranked defense last year, and now I think we are up to 10 or 12 or something like that. We're fluctuating between there. But I mean, we still have holes, and that's okay because this is year one. But the leadership of Wagner, you bring a guy like Frankie Louvu in here, which I think is going to be like the heart and soul of this defense for some years to come. And then if you can fix the other side, bring Marshawn back, hopefully he'll be back for the playoffs. And then next year, we'll have him under contract for a couple of years and go grab yourself a cornerback, whether it's in free agency or in the draft. Put Sanders still in the slot, and you're going to have your back end because Chin and Quan Martin can be that safety valve for a long time because they're still both very young.
To talk about how good Lubu is as well. Oh my God, what a diamond in the rough we have got there. Boys, let's get on to where we see maybe the season finishing now. We currently sit the 6th seed. We play the Cowboys on the road this coming Sunday, 1:00 Eastern. Scouse, any preference? Obviously, again, I'm going to knock on wood. I think we beat the Cowboys. I think we stay the 6th seed. LA, the Bucks. Potentially, if we lose, we could go to Philly and play them. Scouse, any preference for where we go, what we do, or just happy to be in the party? I mean, I put a tweet out on Sunday saying once you're in, anything's possible. Any given Sunday, the old saying, people writing us. I had a little. We were 33-1 with Bet365 over here. I may have had 10 English pounds on us to make to go all the way. 35-1. A lot of people not giving us a chance. Scouts, any preference for you? Who I mean, I don't. Philly's the only one that it doesn't worry me, but going there so soon after what we've done to them, they're going to have their tails up. They're going to want to prove a point. They've obviously just won the NFC East. Any preference for you for where we go?
I mean, well, on the counter argument to Philly is that they're probably still scared of us as well, that we just give them a caning. So that we came back in that fourth quarter the way we did. You know, they thought that we were going to fall apart, and we just took JD just took them apart in that fourth quarter. So that's the reason why they're all. You know, you look on social media, JD's getting all this shit. He's not that good. He's this and blah. You beat our backup.
They're still crying. I saw Jesse
They're
arguing with
still
someone
crying
about an
about it
hour
now.
ago.
Yeah, still crying about it now, and it's like you already played another game and you beat a whacker team like Dallas with your third string in. So what's the difference? Difference is that we're a much better team, and they're worried about us. It's as simple as that. Now, for my preference would be LA. To be fair, I know we got McVay out there, but again, for me, that team is very hit and miss, especially on offense. I mean, 1 minute they put 40 up against Bills, next minute they put 10 up against, you know, whoever the hell it was. I can't remember who it was. Awful matches. And I think that the matchups I think we do better with overall in that game. So, give me the Rams if
Carl,
possible.
is it the same for you, bro? Do you think? I mean, I'm with Scouse. I would say give me the Rams. I don't fear the Bucks as much. I mean, we go back to the opening game of the season. We could have won that game. We were in it right. And again, when you look back at that game now, you're thinking, wow, that was the story of the season. We nearly won a game that everyone thought we were going to lose. The Bucks don't hold massive amounts of worries for me. Carl, any preference for you? Obviously, I think we win Sunday and remain the sixth seed, and I think we'll go to the. I think it will be the Rams. But what says you, brother?
Yeah, I think that this is an important game to win this weekend. Just you don't want to go in with those questions into the playoffs if you do lose against the Cowboys. I don't expect them to, but honest, what is the Dan Quinn quote? Anybody, anywhere, anytime. It doesn't matter who it is. Obviously, I would love to be able to go up to Philly and make all those people very angry. I'm sure the radio stations will be flying off the hook if that happens. But you brought up Tampa Bay. And one reason why I would be circling Tampa Bay as somebody I would like to match up against is because the team that you have in week one is vastly different than the team that you have at the end of the season. And I would love to be able to see the compare and contrast from week one into that playoff game and how we play against them. Obviously, they don't have Godwin. They're missing some guys there, but they have Bucky Irving, who's really done well for their offense, of course. But it would really be cool to see. Baker has been on fire. Of course he has. But so have we. And our quarterback just had 5 touchdowns against the Eagles, comes out, has 3 touchdowns against the Falcons to be able to clinch those playoffs. And so it's not like we're limping in, you know what I mean? And so Tampa Bay, I would love to see. I would not mind the matchup against the Rams to be able to have that old kind of rivalry building back up. Emmanuel Forbes being there, Cam Curl being there. But they're no slouch either. Got Puka Nakua out there and Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford. They're no slouch. But it doesn't matter who we play, honestly. I'm just excited to see a playoff game. And hopefully we can get a playoff win to really show the new chapter or new book, you could say, of Washington.
Yeah, for me, it's no doubt the Tampa Bay Bucks. Reason being is all about the matchups. If you're looking at running backs, it doesn't matter what team that we're going to face. We're going to face a good running back, whether it's Bucky Irvin, whether it's Kyron Williams, or whether it's Saquon Barkley. But especially if we got Marshawn back for the playoffs, they have a man named Mike Evans. He destroyed us week one. But if you look back on the matchups between New Orleans and the Bucks, they go at it, and Marshawn gets the better of him pretty much every time they play. So Kyle said earlier, Godwin's not going to be there. That's another player off the board. I think we match up a hell of a lot better with the Bucks than we do either with the Rams. The Rams kind of scare me. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nakua could very well torch us with our defensive backs. And the Eagles, that's just, going to Lincoln Financial. That's always a tough place to play. So give me the Bucks. We're not the same team as we were week one. And I think we're Jay Daniels is what he's turned into in the season can match blow for blow with Baker Mayfield and what they have.
Scouse, a lot of word on social media the last few days as we head into the Cowboys game this coming Sunday is get the job done early and rest as many players as you can. I've seen a few people go backwards and forwards on social media, on various Twitter and Facebook posts and stuff like that, saying we can beat the Cowboys with anyone. Just don't get any injuries. How are you seeing it? Are you seeing, look, let's get in there. Maybe, again, I'm knocking on wood, get 20, 25, 30 points. Do what we can, get up and then just rest everybody. Because you do not want, I think there was a moment on Sunday when Jaden's leg bent right back and my heart literally
I think everybody
sunk.
in the fan base's
I
heart
would,
just
yeah.
stopped for a
And
second.
what do we do come Sunday, in your opinion, Scouts? Is there a Dan Quinn's come out and said, look, we're going there to win. We're playing everybody. We're not looking. I mean, as a fan, though, I mean, I'm kind of thinking, I don't want the Washington curse to strike now, so late on into the season. Is it a case of, look, let's put 17-20 on the board by halftime, get JD the hell out of here, get him in his street clothes, let him watch the second half, and we roll into the playoffs? How would you approach this Sunday?
Exactly what you just said. I mean, that would be the perfect scenario that we could get, 2, 3 scores up by half time, and then you can rest a lot of your main guys. Because I say you want to limit that chance of injury, and especially with, say, someone as important as JD is, you definitely don't want him taking those unnecessary hits, which always worries me in every game he plays in. Even last week, never mind the leg bent back, I'm just scared of him taking those shots, even when he's trying to get to the end zone running. He's taking them and he's okay, but so one day it won't be, you know what I mean? Then he's out for whatever, and our team can't handle him being out for a long period of time. There's just no way. So, yeah, man. I mean, I think it's going to be difficult to have our first team out anyway, because I think we've got a lot of, like, Biadish, I don't think he's going to play. I think there's going to be a few other. I think Lucas is going to be out. I think we've got quite a few guys who are going to be out anyway. So it might be harder to rest some guys because just have no actual bodies available to play. So I know he picked up some guy off the street, a tackle today, but I mean, yeah, I mean, that's like picking me up. Do you know what I mean? Like it's absolute shite. So so for me, it's just a bit like so yeah, so the idea is, yes, you want to be able to do what you said, but it's going to be difficult to do because Dallas aren't going to fuck around. They want to play party.
They want to spoil the party. They want us to go to Philly.
We had a bad game against them. That was our only game that we thought, fuck, we should have won that game, and we shit the bed. That was that game there against them. Now, so we have got some motivating factors to go out there and kick their ass, but so if they want to say, well, we're going to give you an easier potential playoff spot. We would let you take on the Eagles and fight it out next week. So, yeah, it's always Dallas as well. So, it's never one of them games that you can just rest players usually. But
no, I agree. But Carl, what's your biggest concern as we go into, obviously, you've got the Cowboys game? What will be in that game? Any concerns from you? I mean, in our little WhatsApp group that we've got going on a Sunday, I know our good friend Wiley was the penalties that were going around on another day would have cost us a game. Really would have cost us a game. That for me, but again, that could be any given Sunday that you want to tighten up on the flags. I thought the referees, you were there, Carl. I thought the referees were atrocious on Sunday. I thought some of the calls were really bad, and even the guys on the commentary in the studio were saying, "Hang on a minute, some of these calls will never get called in the NFL." Carl, for you, as we roll into the Cowboys and into the playoffs, no matter who we play, if you were Dan Quinn, if you were there in the building, what would be your biggest concern and something that you'd really want to focus on as we move forward?
The biggest concern I have is running the football effectively and consistently. Obviously, Jaden Daniels being the leading rusher on the season with over 800 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns. That can't be the recipe that you have going into the playoffs. So for me personally, it ties into resting your starters and all of this stuff. The MO has to be running the football Sunday against the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense, they're 29th in the league in rushing yards, averaging almost 140 yards per game. And Brian Robinson has not really been effective the last couple weeks. It's been Jaden more so than anything else that's really gotten you yardage. So going into the playoffs, this is a perfect opportunity for Washington to run the football effectively, use the offensive line, get bodies out of the way. Micah Parsons is sitting over there with 9.5 sacks, not even with the full season's worth of work. The guy is still getting after the quarterback, so the best way to be able to stop him is run the ball effectively. So that's my biggest concern, is being able to run the ball effectively, control the game, and be able to get out of there with a W with everyone healthy, the last thing I want to see is Jaden running the ball over 15 times for over 100 yards again. That's not a great recipe going into the playoffs, because in the playoffs, if you can't have that in their back pocket, the ability to run the football effectively with your running backs, it's going to be a difficult time, and you're putting yourself in a very bad situation. So going into the playoffs, it would be really good to have a stellar running performance from the running backs, so where we actually feel building up some momentum in that regard. Because right now, running the ball has taken a step back last couple weeks.
And it looks like Eckler will be back. They're opened up the 21-day window, and just going back and thinking of it, our run game started to suffer when he went out. So hopefully him coming back can help mitigate some of that stuff. But Kyle's 100% right. We got to get this run game going, and we can't put it all on the shoulders of Jaden Daniels.
No, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I mean, I don't want to see him. I love what he's done with his legs with the ball, but I really don't want to see him being our leading rusher. Come on Sunday, do what we got to do. Get him out. Do you know what? Even if come near the end of the game it's close, I wouldn't want to risk injury. Just get him out of there. I don't want to roll into the week after and wrap that guy in cotton wool. With him, we've got a great chance. Without him, let's be honest, we haven't. So let's get into some fan questions before we get out of here. Carl, you can take the first one, brother. Mr. Hartley would like to know, who is the most underrated player on the team, and who will be the key player not being talked about in the playoff run?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I probably would put Sanders still up there with what he has done. Just given the fact of being put in here as the inside, moved to the outside, he really was a calm presence for us out there until we got Marshawn back there. But to be honest with you, I think that it's going to be Dante Fowler. With him coming out with 10.5 sacks, having an interception, a touchdown, that in the playoffs, being able to get after the quarterback is going to be huge, and forcing turnovers. He had a sack last week on Penix where he forced a fumble. And in one of those situations, if you're able to fall on that football, and we saw what we did with the interception, we went down and we scored a touchdown. That sort of momentum swing and point swing could be huge in the playoffs. So if I'm going to pick anybody, it's Dante Fowler. I saw Big Doug put out there about the, unsung hero, everything like that. Like, I think Dante Fowler fits the bill for unsung hero. He's not getting talked about enough. And for how much he was brought in here for, and with everyone kind of freaking out before the season, why we let go of Chase Young and Montez, Dante Fowler and Frankie Louvu have come in here with a combined 18.5 sacks and have really shown what you can do with just good individuals that are willing to work hard. And so if I'm going to say anybody, I'll say Dante.
No, great answer, mate. Jesse, good teams win, great teams cover, the podcast. I'm going to be on the show in a couple of weeks talking all things Washington. We've kind of touched on this. He says, I'm not a Washington fan, but who's the preferred matchup in the wild card round? At Philly after beating them only a couple of weeks ago, or matching up against the Rams in LA? I mean, we've kind of touched on this. I mean, it is.
Yeah, it's a pick your poison.
It is.
They're all good teams.
You go with the Bucks. I'm going to go with I would rather play. Something about Philly just worries me. So close to. I think we can go up there and win. That side of it, something within me just says, so soon after we've just absolutely whooped them and embarrassed them on national TV.
I mean, I think we could beat any one of these teams.
Yeah,
that's
a good thing about us now. We're not going into this playoff run. When we went in against the Bucks in 2020, oh well, we're there. Let's have a good time. I think, Carl, you've got the signed pylon from Heineke that you know what I mean. We were there. We had a good time. It was great. We made the playoffs with 9 wins. Everyone was like, okay, well, let's just see what we can do. Now we're going into the playoffs with expectation. That's something we haven't had in Washington for many, many years.
Anything is possible with JD5.
There it is. Look, for those watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Carl is showing us the signed Heineke. Whatever happened to the little Heineke? Don't know what he's doing these days.
He's in LA with the Chargers. He's a backup for him.
There you go. Say no more. Let's go. Scouse, you can take the next one. Should we, GWR, great listener to the podcast, thanks for all your questions, bro. Should we pursue someone like T. Higgins, a different kind of wide receiver, to Terry McLaurin? All for you, Scouse. You're muted. We've been doing this for years. You're muted. You can still talk. You're still muted. There you go, brother. Hit the button down.
What's better, me muted or not? I don't know.
Don't answer that.
Put it back on mute.
No one answer that. No one answer that. Go.
Yeah, you didn't want to answer that one. But yeah, man, 100%. I'm all in on T Higgins if we can get him. I mean, he's exactly what we need on the other side of the field. The Terry, he's got the length, he's fast, he's got the hands, he's got the separation. He can get open in the red zone. Man, this guy could make a huge difference to our offense. What we lack in offense is a guy who can take it to the house at any opportunity. You know, besides Terry, you
Separation
have
we
that.
lack, I think.
Yeah,
Getting that
we haven't got
separation, we seem
that true
to.
elite speed
Mm,
where that scares people. You know what I mean? And I know you could say Brown and all the rest of it, but those guys don't scare anyone. Do you know what I mean? We want a guy who
Mm-mm.
goes, "Whoa, wait a minute." No, defenses really have to keep an eye on this guy, and it'd make it so much easier for Terry as well. It really would. I mean, if we can afford him. We've got the cap space
we
to
could
do it.
definitely afford
We've got the
one.
money to do it. So we're cash rich as well as ownership. So they'll put loads of it in signing bonuses or whatever if you want to lower the cap that way, manipulate it that way a little bit. So he's definitely a guy we could definitely get. It just depends, obviously, if they want to do it. But me, I'm all over it. I mean, if we could get it, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, signing T
Yeah, go on,
Higgins would be
Carl.
absolutely fantastic.
Like I really wanted T Higgins last year, but the one issue I do have with T is just the oft injured sort of aspect of it. And we think about with Marshawn Lattimore, where we get into these situations where we could really use him on the field, and obviously him being injured. And so you're going to be paying a lot of money for him, which if you add him to the team, it's going to make you better. Let's do it. But the one avenue that I would replicate is what the Chicago Bears did this year with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. As long we have Terry, fantastic. But I love the idea of pairing Jaden up with a young wide receiver that he can also grow with, where he can rely on Terry for those sort of long ball situations, but also grow with a young guy. And obviously, we have the money for it, of course. I'm just saying, like, in the long term effects type of way, I would absolutely love to pair him with a very valuable wide receiver that this team really covets and enjoys and could see the future with. I would love to see that relationship develop. If that makes sense.
He is only 25 though. I mean, he's got a good
He
fight.
is.
Is
Yeah.
it that the
Mm.
Yeah,
highest is a bit
Fair.
like
longer?
Scouts was saying, we do got a lot of money and we do have to spend it somewhere. And the two players that I would like to for them to go after in the
Buy me
offseason is
Scouse and Scott over for the playoffs if you want.
DJ Reed and T Higgins. I think that would sew up a lot of issues for us.
Jesse, GWR would also like to know, is this a good year to be lower in the draft with an alleged lack of talent coming outside? Is it better to be deeper down the list this year? I mean, hopefully moving forward, we're going to be deep down that list every year. It
You
just
know,
means our team's doing well.
it's funny because of the fact that we have our quarterback, so we got to put the trust in Adam Peters that no matter where we fall in the draft, he's going to do right. And I mean, we saw this year he had a hell of a draft his first year, and we should expect nothing less this year. So no matter where we are, I'm sure Peters is going to find us a good player.
Interesting question to finish with, and I was discussing with this someone before the game on Sunday. Boys, I'll open this up to everyone. Chris would like to know: is the fact that Jaden Daniels has the Rookie of the Year award already locked up detracting from him being in the MVP conversation? It's got to be in the conversation.
I mean, yeah, he should be.
Got to
Absolutely.
be. I mean, I think they were talking about it. So I'm watching. I can't remember what I was watching. NFL or DAZN NFL Network. Where why I can't.
Is he going to win it? No. Should he get votes? Absolutely.
Yeah, Carl. Do you think I think he should get? He'll definitely get votes. I mean, is it season too soon to be talking about MVP? I mean, depends how far we go in the playoffs.
I I think by when the definition of most valuable player, I think by far Jaden really does fit the bill. Obviously, Josh Allen and Lamar do a lot for their football team, of course. But Jaden, I think whenever these awards come up, I always say you have to look at the entire situation altogether. And given with where Washington was last year, with just adding Jaden and these obviously other pieces around him and what they have accomplished and the kind of stats that he's put up, it's similar to what Lamar put up in his 2022 year where he won MVP, I think, or was it 23? One of those years where he won MVP. It's very similar to what he had put up. I don't think that the Rookie of the Year consideration is detracting from the MVP conversation. I just think that these other guys that are in contest for MVPs, they're almost like the shoe-ins, like what people would bet on for MVPs, and so it's very easy to put them into that conversation. Whereas with Jaden, it's much more than just the stats that what he's done. You have to look at the entire operation, and from what this Washington has been and to what they are now, and a lot of that you could put on his shoulders, and you can say that he probably is the most valuable player in the league, just given that as soon as he walked through the door, we were a better team.
Yeah, Kyle's 100% right. And if you really look at it, like Lamar and Josh Allen have more to work with than what Jaden Daniels has to work with. So if you're looking at it at that scope, which is kind of the definition of the most valuable player, um, he brings the most value to this team, bar none. But he's not going to win it just
That's why I
because.
like the idea of what Carl said earlier of getting a young wide receiver and having him grow with Jaden. I mean, if you look at who was the guy that the Eagles drafted last season, he was dressed in burgundy, everyone thought he was coming in, now gone to the Eagles. Imagine,
Oh yeah, that was Drake London. That
yeah,
was
imagine,
Falcons.
imagine if he did come to Washington, and you, like Carl said, you have someone like that can grow with. You put elite along elite, and they grow on like a Washington journey together. I'm all there for that. Scouse, Cameron would like to know what are the pros and cons of each prospective playoff opponent. I mean, Carl kind of mentioned it earlier. Jesse made a point of why he wants the Bucks. I think we stand a better chance. Me personally, I think we stand a better chance of beating the Bucks than anyone else. That's just me personally. I think us
Yeah.
through the air against their D. I think we stand a hell of a good chance of going on the road and beating the Bucks. What about you?
I mean, it just depends really on the matchups because say if Lattimore's back, then yeah, I think we've got a good chance. Baker throws that ball a lot,
Hmm.
and he's on fire. He will dice this up. They will look for Saint Ghost. They will look for Mike Evans. Not Mike Evans. The other guy we got, the awful
Mike
Davis.
Davis.
Mike
Davis.
Davis. Awful.
I tried to throw him
They
a
will,
bone
they will
earlier.
get abused. They will get abused on that game. So we've got to find a way of going. Okay, we either out scheme them, but Baker is not scared to throw the double coverage anyway. So again, I think we lose out. I think we lose out there unless Lattimore's available. So for me, why I think the Rams is because their offense is so hit and miss. It's so hot and cold. They've got
Yeah,
great players. You mentioned they've got great receivers.
but when it's hot,
It's
Yeah, it's
really
hard to
hot.
kill you. Yeah, well, it's hard to kill you. But the thing is,
Yeah.
you see a lot of cold with it as well. You see a lot of 50. They literally are 50-50. You just don't know what you're going to get from their offense. And I'd rather take that rather than taking the known quantity of Mike Davis or the other or St. Ghost is going to get absolutely abused.
I
So
also factor in Sean McVay's play calling. He's a genius. He's a great play caller.
yeah, but we
And
know him.
I'm
No,
more
you know,
afraid of him as a play caller than I am of Tampa Bay's offense.
I think Andy does have a good point about the 50-50, but I would imagine that it's much more based on like away and home games.
Hmm.
And going against LA, they would be at home in their stadium, which they play very well at, of course. If it was here in obviously at Northwest, I would probably say you're probably right, Andy. It's just that's one caveat we do have to throw in there that they are typically very good
Good
at
point.
home.
Carl, one quick
Good point.
question that someone threw at me just while I just got a tweet in my DM. Andy, can you ask this on the show? Has the performance of the Washington Commanders put Cliff Kingsbury in the shop window even more than he was already?
And being a head coach,
Yeah.
yeah, of course it has. Whenever you can't do
Thanks, that
things
was
like
from Nick, by the way. Thanks, Nick.
you can't do Nick, you can't do things like this typically with this team without the offensive coordinator immediately getting into the headlines of possible replacement coaches and everything like that. But I just know that Cliff is still being paid by Arizona. And so along with his contract that he has with Washington, he's basically being paid like a head coach. Now, that being said, if it's a situation that comes to him and he really likes that opportunity and he thinks he can grow with that, I don't think Chicago would be enticing to him, specifically because he would want to go into a situation, I would imagine, a lot like Dan Quinn, where he's able to get in there, figure out with his GM, work together, get a good quarterback for him to work with and grow with, rather than saying, do you like this guy? Can you work with him? Because now his success, the quarterback success, hinges with you. And so I think that going to a situation like that is probably much more better for Cliff, but I'm not sure if that situation is going to be arising at all, in my personal opinion. I don't think Cliff would walk away from this opportunity knowing how far his success could go, I think he probably want to stay another year.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Kyle. I think Cliff, seeing, what's out there and what's coming. I mean, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward doesn't excite anybody nearly closely as close as a Jaden Daniels, and it has to be a perfect situation. I don't think he wants to go. I think he's perfectly happy right here where he's at, and it would have to be a perfect storm for him to go.
Could be worse. Could be the Jets. They're getting Ron Rivera.
That's true.
Sheesh.
Hey, their ownership goes off Madden ratings.
Boys, let's just wrap up this episode. Carl, let's go around the room. Two things. What has been your highlight of 2024 being a Washington Commanders fan, and how far do we go in the playoffs?
The highlight of 2024. I honestly, to really put into words, I would have to say the late touchdown to Jamison Crowder against the Eagles, because as much as his Jaden's legs gets talked about a lot, that anticipatory kind of throw really highlights who Jaden is. Because a lot of people will say, let's go get the next Jaden Daniels. Let's go get a VR system for them to work with. But what makes Jaden so special is his natural leadership ability and his work ethic, where he is not told to go work with the VR. He does it voluntarily because he wants to get better. He wants to sharpen his craft. And so that sort of personality, that sort of person is hard to come by. And I think it speaks a lot into that last throw to Jamison Crowder, where that's somebody that's been working their tail off to get better as a quarterback, as a passer. And we have seen with quarterbacks here in the past where they kind of want to be anointed as that rather than working hard for it. And Jaden has shown us time and time again that he is that guy. And I think the best possible way to show that in the highlight of this season was that throw to Jamison Crowder, where everyone has been complaining about weapons, but we go in there, beat Philly with Jamison Crowder, who didn't play most of the season, doesn't have that much of a relationship with Jaden up until this point, but he's able to find that little hole in the back of the end zone and catch that football for us to win the game. So the highlight of the season, I would say, is that. And then how far could we get in the playoffs? I think we go as far as the running game does. The Bucks are very stout against the run. They're one team that really does a good job of stifling that. They give up a lot of pass yards, but I think that the best way that this team can go far in the playoffs is how they got here. And that is by having a stout running game, keeping the pressure off of Jaden, and then allowing Jaden in those passing situations to win you over. When we start losing games is when we stop running the football effectively. Jaden has saved our rear end the past 4 games, but we need to get back to that. And so, as far as our running game goes, I honestly believe that this team is capable of anything. They have shown the opportunistic kind of way of playing defense where they get these turnovers randomly, they get these sacks, they're able to get off the field, make the adjustments against Saquon, against Bijan. I think they can do that again in the playoffs. They're not going to be top tier, but they're opportunistic. And so I think this team could go as far as their running game does. And I'm talking about February.
Jesse, highlight of 2024 for you, brother.
Yeah, it's the right here, right now. I mean, we're going into week 18 with the opportunity of winning 12 games in a season, and it hasn't happened in a really long time. So I think the highlights just keep coming and coming.
Yeah, I'm with you. The fact that every time I turn on the NFL Network or I listen to a podcast, we're getting spoken about positively. Everyone, every time I watch Good Morning Football, they're loving us. I think they've all turned into Commanders fans on that show. For me, just seeing my organization out there I have non-football NFL fans come up to me. I work with a guy and he's like, I check on the Commanders results now purely because of you and what they're doing. And I hear people talking about the Washington. No one's calling us the Redskins anymore, really. And I know that's probably going to piss a lot of people off listening to this, but they're not. And I think Keith put out a great tweet yesterday. He's like, no one in the stadium anymore is talking about, I don't like the name and blah, 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 and this and the roof's leaking. That's all gone now. We've said for a long, long time, win games of football and everything else goes away. I think we said that from like 2021 to last season. Just win. Once you win, you sit here and you do shows like this and you talk positively and you talk about playoffs and you talk about, having a rookie QB who already looks like a veteran, who's literally going to put this team on his shoulders in the next 3 to 4 years and hopefully take us to where we all want to be, which is watching our team play in the Super Bowl. Scouse, how about you, brother? Finishing up, what's been the highlight of 2024 and how far can we go?
I mean, as everyone else has said, we could. Oh, the sky's the limit, really. I mean, we're a team. As I say, we're not the blue chip players. We haven't got a load of those players. But we are the definition of a team, and that makes the huge difference, man. It really does
No
because
superstars, yeah, really.
no superstars, no big egos, no big attitudes. Even Jaden, look how like humble he is, and he could be the biggest. He could be like
Someone put a tweet
Caleb-
out when he sits
he
on
could
the
be a Caleb
sideline. He looks like
Williams.
he's
He could
bored.
be.
Looks like he's just sitting there on like a.
I mean, Caleb Williams is a stare. One of those guys who likes to cause shit. You know what I mean? You can see like his ego is that massive if he can't get through the door. That's Caleb Williams. Our guy doesn't is nothing like that at all, and he's a better quarterback than him. So
Better
like,
person, better
there's none
quarterback.
better
Yeah,
person, better everything. He's
Mm.
just it's exactly what we needed for this team, and I say, and the team reflects that. Luvu as well, and you mentioned all the other dudes as well. You mentioned great leadership, but also great people and great men. And that makes a huge difference. That can get you a long way when you don't have the talent of other teams.
Mm.
Because you see it sometimes with teams that got stacked with amazing players, but can't produce shit because they're not on the same page because they're not a real team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I
Dan
think
Quinn's got to
different-
take enormous credit as well because a lot of people, when he come in here, thought this guy is not going to be any good for Washington. He'll probably be one season and done. They're going to be playing terrible football. His track record tells you that he's not going to be any good. And every interview that I've seen with him, he's remained humble. He's remained focused. Everything's been about the players. When he's had to shift the focus, he's shifted the focus. When he's had to take the heat off the players, he's taken the heat off the players. The way that he's managed this organization should be the benchmark for any coach wanting to go to a team like Washington or something like that and say, look, this is how you go in and do it. You go in and yes, don't get me wrong, we drafted the second and we got Jaden Daniels. I get that. But you've still got to coach that. You've still got to manage that. You've still got to put a product on the field you've still got to get these guys to play football and win games of football. He has gone under the radar this year because we've got a great quarterback, and that's what we're all talking about. Who's put us in these great situations as we head into the playoff. Dan Quinn, sir, I give you 10 out of 10 for what you've not only done for our football team, for our organization. I think he's done an absolutely tremendous job.
and I say, and you got to give credit to Dan Quinn for not having an ego,
Mm-hmm.
for allowing all these superstar kind of coaching hires. You know what I mean? Because look at the first time he had Shanahan as his offensive coordinator, and he was getting all the love when they went to the Super Bowl. It was all Kyle Shanahan. It wasn't Dan Quinn. You know what I mean? And but he's allowed himself to do it again. He's allowed himself to have a Cliff Kingsbury there as another stud offensive coordinator. But his ego, he hasn't got one. Do you know what I mean? And that makes a huge difference. If Dayball was in this situation, he'd have ripped them to shreds. This whole place would be falling apart because he's got a massive ego and he can't allow anyone to get the credit instead of him. Where Dan Quinn's quite happy to go, hey, you deserve it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all part of one, and that's how it should be as a manager or a head coach, however you want to play it.
Be a team.
And to Andy's point, I think one of the most glaring quotes was by Bobby Wagner when someone asked him what the difference between Dan Quinn in Seattle and Dan Quinn as the head coach here. He talked about how when Dan Quinn was the defensive coordinator in Seattle, he noticed that he would try to do things like other coaches, like he was absorbing how they were doing things and trying to mold that into his own. Where Bobby said this time around, he really has taken his own personality and really like turned it up to the point where it's just his. He's not trying to absorb anything. And I think that speaks to Andy's point of how he's been as a head coach here. He really has fine-tuned and worked hard to be able to be that manager of the coaches, but also be that motivator for the football team and keeping them focused and on the subject at hand. I think Andy's absolutely right, and you're absolutely right, of course, Andy, that and Dan Quinn deserves a lot of credit. He should be in the Coach of the Year candidacy. It's going to be hard to beat out Kevin O'Connell, but he has done everything that you want him to do as a head coach. He's worked hard at it.
Just before we get out of here, Scouse, one of my absolute highlights of the year, nothing to do with football, was a certain Jesse Martin paying $40, $30, $40, $50 to take a piss because he was too scared to take one in the middle of DC. Walking around DC needing a piss, paid $40 to get into a nightclub, took a piss and left. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Scouts, how
I
funny
took
was that?
I took a piss in the DuPont fountain in DC when
Nah,
I was wasted.
honestly, Jesse was walking like a duck. The
There
boy
you
was
go.
struggling. He was struggling. He
That
went
was
behind more
rough.
trees than Yogi Bear. He didn't know what was going on. And next thing he paid, how much did you pay to get into that club?
It was $40.
$40 to take a piss. One of my
Yeah.
highlights of the season. Anyway, boys, it's been a great 2024. I've really enjoyed talking football with you. Carl, just tell us about quickly what's coming up with the Burgundy Zone soon, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. We're recording today, but you could check us out every Sunday after the games or Wednesday evenings on YouTube, on Spotify, iTunes Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all of them. Just search for the Burgundy Zone. But I appreciate you boys, as always. It's been fun over the years being able to develop the relationship that we have. It all started with us talking about the UK takeover, you being able to, not being able to for the first couple of years because of COVID. But now it's become a tradition for you guys coming over every year at the start. Hopefully, you're able to come over for a playoff game this year. We'll see if it happens. I know you guys are coming. Am I wrong?
Yeah, if
Oh, you're not wrong.
yeah, you're not wrong. I think I might have to sell my car and my kidney looking at the prices of tickets for these games. But yeah, I've said for years it's one of my dreams to watch my team play in a playoff game. I mean, I'm gonna no bones about it. I was emotional as hell when we got in on Sunday. I dread to think what I'm gonna be like a week on Sunday or Monday whenever we do play that playoff game. It's gonna be a lot. I've taken the Monday off work already, booked it, done. Not going to work that day, just so I can stay up late and watch
What
our
happens if
team
it's
play.
the Monday night game, though?
Then I'm taking the Tuesday off.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah. Then
Boss will be like, nah, you're all right.
no,
Yeah.
it's done. I'll get COVID again or something. I don't know. I won't be going in. But Carl, thanks so much for joining us, bro. I wish you everything success for 2025. No doubt I'll see you throughout the year, speak to you a million times. Jesse, I hope the hangover gets better, brother. You look
Working
like
on it.
shit. But
You
I'm
look
glad
like death,
Working
bro.
on it.
you look like you've been hanging out with a bunch of Brits, even though you haven't. Thanks for everything you've done for the podcast in 2024, bro. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Scouts, catch you soon, mate. No doubt I'll probably see you before I see these boys, but it's been a good year of podcasting with you, brother.
Likewise, man.
Make sure you check us out on X. Yeah, I said X instead of Twitter for once. YouTube as well. You can type in the Bunker Podcast. Find us on X at Commander Bunker. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been our first episode of 2025. The Washington Commanders are on a roll. Let's talk some playoff football in a couple of weeks. Till next time, everybody, bunker down and stay safe.